This video is going to look at some bomb damage which was done in Woolton Village, in Quarry Street, Woolton Village, during World War II. And it kind of ties into part of the story I was telling in the previous video, where some houses on Quarry Street were set on fire for fire practice in around 1937, 1938, which was prior to the war. But we're going to look at some of the streets on the left hand side as we walk along it on Quarry Street, and have a look at what they look like today. Started off because I had a comment on a video I made about the Bear Brand factory, which is quite some time ago now, but the comment's quite recent, and it came from a guy called Bryn Gerard. I'm going to read what Bryn said. He's made a comment, and the comment is actually in two parts, so I'm going to start with the second point that he makes, and it's in regard to Reynolds Park at the top of Church Road in Woolton Village. So his comment says, another war point was a square rectangular building in Reynolds Park surrounded by conifer trees. This has been demolished now, but it was at the end of Reservoir Road, but actually inside the park. Now he points out that this is the highest point in West Lancashire, and it was back then because Liverpool was in Lancashire rather than Merseyside. So the highest point in Liverpool would have been the highest point in West Lancashire. The building had a blast wall in front of the entrance, and as children we managed to get inside. It was full of cubicles and headsets hanging on hooks, with a large area of space in the middle of the main room, with some other smaller rooms and toilets. This was a command control centre for the RAF during World War II. Now I had heard something about this because I did a video about Reynolds Park and I didn't mention this, and somebody replied to somebody else, so I didn't actually see what they said for a long time because I didn't get notification like I do an ordinary comment. But he was basically saying that I'd missed this point out, and I had no idea. I didn't know anything about it whatsoever. But I have done a little bit of research into it now, so we're going to have a look at the area in Reynolds Park where this building probably was from Bryn's description, and we're going to look at what it likely looked like when it was in use. Okay, off to Reynolds Park. So this is Reynolds Park in Woolton. It's pretty much at the top end of Church Road, and this is the abandoned, disused gatehouse, which was once part of a mansion that stood on here, which belonged to the Reynolds family. And it looks quite nice in autumn. Now this is the area I think Bryn was talking about, because this is just behind the wall, and on the other side of the wall is Reservoir Road, and these look like the trees he mentioned. Okay, so I'm just going to take a walk up the pathway and along this little route here, so that we can take a quick left and then look back at the area which I think Bryn means. Okay, so looking directly at that area now, behind those trees would be the wall, which is on Church Road, and beyond that would be the junction with Reservoir Road, and the gatehouse would be to the left of the picture as we're looking at it now. So in this area somewhere was the rectangular or square building which Bryn describes. Now there was various types of these buildings, and this isn't the one that was in Reynolds Park, but it might be something similar, where there was a section where people could work tracking aircraft in rooms, and on top was a gun emplacement. Now I'm not saying that there was a gun emplacement in the one in Reynolds Park, I don't know, but some had a gun on top, and in this one you can see the steps to the left hand side where people would have walked up to actually man the gun to shoot aircraft down. Now if there was a gun on top of this building, it could have possibly looked like this. There was quite a few different styles and sizes of guns used, but this is an anti-aircraft gun. These guns were usually manned by the army, and especially the TA, the Territorial Army. So there's no real record that I could find of what was actually here, but it's possible that this was just a station where planes were tracked as they made their way towards targets in Liverpool. Okay, so now we've established where this building was, and we've got an idea of what it probably looked like. We're going to go off to Quarry Street and have a look at some of the changes that have been made over the years since World War II, and some of it's going to be fact and some of it's going to be hypothesis, which is basically it might be true, there again it might not be. So for the next part of the video we're going to have a walk down Quarry Street once again. We're back on Quarry Street, and this is the Victoria pub. At the end of the pub there's a left turn, which is Pitt Place, and that featured in my last video. Just going to take a look back at where I've walked from. Woolton Village is in that direction, Allerton Road, and the swimming baths. Now these are the three cottages I mentioned in my last video, and I didn't really show them properly. But the left hand side of this road would have consisted of a row of cottages exactly like this, but they were burnt down and used for fire practice in around about 1937 or 1938, just before World War II. Now on the right hand side there's also some new houses, but I think they relate to the quarry, which is now closed. Woolton's sandstone quarry was in that site, and in the 1980s there was a housing estate built on it. I just wanted to go through the first part of Bryn Gerard's comment, and it starts off: there were quite a number of bombing raids on the factory during World War II, and by the factory he means the Bear Brand factory. One half of Gladstone Street was wiped out, and some houses on Castle Street. Not sure about Rose Street or Roddick Street. Clearly there is a break in the traditional houses and new ones erected on Rose Street, and Roddick Street was largely empty when I was a child. The houses that are on Gladstone Street today are the ones built to replace those destroyed. We've had a look down Roddick Street and Castle Street, and I'm going to look at the next road along, which has a pub on its corner. This on the right hand side, this building here, used to be the police station, but it's now private properties or rented properties. And that's the pub on the left hand side there, which is called the Cobden, and you can see To the left hand side there's a bit of spare land, but we're just going to take a walk past it. The far corner of the pub is a road called Cobden Street, but it's not actually there anymore. It's about the length of 2 cars. So this has obviously been a street at some time, and behind that fence are new build bungalows. The next road along is the one which Bryn mentioned, which is this one, Gladstone Street. And this leads down to Vale Road, which I filmed on a walk to Strawberry Fields. So if you missed that and you want to see Vale Road, it's in a video of mine called Strawberry Fields. So one side of the road here, there's no houses. It's just plots of land which have obviously grown over the years. And the houses on the left hand side, the side we're walking on, are replacements for ones that were bombed during the war. So these here are all built after World War II. I'm going to guess that they were probably built in the 1950s. Looking back up the road there, and these are the plots of land which have now grassed over and had bushes growing on them, and basically this would have been a row of houses. And at the bottom of the road here, as we walk towards Vale Road, is the pub on the corner, which is called the Gardener's Arms. And those large high-rise flats are on Menlove Avenue. So to the right of those, a fair walk, but to the right of those would be John Lennon's Aunt Mimi's. So this is a look back up Gladstone Street. So we've walked from the top there, which is on Quarry Street. I haven't actually given it a great deal of thought in the past, but now you look at the area with different eyes, it's quite obvious that there's been quite a lot of damage done in this area. There's a lot of gaps and a lot of missing houses, a lot of replaced houses as well. But targets in this area of South Liverpool wouldn't just have been the Bear Brand factory, which was making parachutes, because there are quite a few other very important buildings as well. That's a view of the old police station, by the way, which also used to be a courthouse, so you would be arrested, brought here, judged, and probably sent away somewhere, all in one building. But yes, as I was saying, it wasn't just Bear Brand which was a target. The airport isn't far away. That was an RAF station during the war, and also just down the road in Speke, they were building aeroplanes at the Roots factory. So South Liverpool was a major target for the Luftwaffe back in the war. Let's have a look at what this building in Reynolds Park would have been tracking, and what the guns around here would have been shooting at. The Germans used a number of bombers during World War II, but we're going to look at 3, and these are probably the most likely suspects to have dropped bombs in South Liverpool. This one is called a Heinkel HE-111, and it's said to be the most recognisable of all the German bombers because it has a greenhouse for its nose. But this aircraft would have carried 5 people. This aircraft is described as a very fast, manoeuvrable, medium-sized bomber. This aircraft is a Junkers Ju-88, but it's actually pronounced Junkers. This aircraft is twin-engined, and it's described as a multi-role combat aircraft. It was also said to be too fast for fighters of its era to intercept it. This bomber would carry 2 1,000 kilogram bombs. This high-speed bomber would have carried a crew of 3. This aircraft is a Dornier DO-17, and it's a twin-engined light bomber. While it's not quite as fast as the Junkers Ju-88, it was still fast enough to outrun fighter aircraft of the time. The Dornier had a top speed of 254 miles an hour, and it carried a crew of 5. The Junkers Ju-88, by the way, had a top speed of 316 miles an hour. Okay, so I think that was a little bit of a different video. I was born after the war, but I can still remember a lot of bomb damage in and around Liverpool during my childhood and growing up years. And it took a long time to actually redevelop those particular areas. I can't imagine what it was like to be in a situation where you're sitting at home and then the air raid sirens go off, and it must have been sheer panic, because you've got planes flying overhead, you don't know what their target is, and you don't know if they're going to drop bombs on your house or the house next door, or an adjacent street. You've also got guys manning these anti-aircraft guns, pumping shells into the air trying to bring one down, and the vast majority would miss. And these shells varied in weight, but none of them were what you could consider lightweight. They weighed between 3.5 pounds upwards, and a piece of metal falling from the sky at that weight would do damage to property and do damage to you. And the third thing that just dawned on me was that what happens if they did actually bring one of these bombers down? Where would it land? If all the occupants bailed out, that plane would be on a destination to somewhere. It's not necessarily going to fall in a field, especially in Liverpool. So you had 3 things going on. You had the thoughts of a bomb landing on you, you had the thoughts of all this anti-aircraft fire falling on you, and the possibility that there would be a plane coming down on your house. It must have been absolutely terrifying. Anyway, I'm going to touch on this subject a little bit more soon. I've got a couple of videos which I would like to do first though, and I'll probably tell you about those in a little video of their own. Anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll catch up soon.